The Washington Post published transcripts this week of President Donald Trump's telephone calls with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto and Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. The Post distilled the notable takeaways from the conversations to conclude President Trump is obsessed with this election win, thinks New Hampshire is a drudge-infested den, worries about looking like a dope, and doesn't want to talk publicly about who is going to pay for the wall. Under the headline 8 jaw-dropping lines from Trump's phone calls with Mexico and Australia, the newspaper clearly did think the president looked like a dope and believed it to be in the public interest to show that. I understand the argument, but are there other issues to consider? David Frum, a conservative political commentator and former speechwriter for President George W. Bush, points to the impact these leaks will have on American security. Leaking the transcript of a presidential call to a foreign leader is unprecedented, shocking, and dangerous, Frum writes at The Atlantic. It is vitally important that a president be able to speak confidentially, and perhaps even more important that foreign leaders understand that they can reply in confidence. No leader will again speak candidly on the phone to Washington, D.C., at least for the duration of this presidency, and perhaps for longer. If these calls can be leaked, any call can be leaked, and no leader dare say anything to the President of the United States that he or she would not wish to read in the news at home. Frum points out that the leaking of the calls was artfully done to give the leaker and the newspaper plausible deniability that any real national security information would be divulged. The two transcripts belong to calls whose substance was already widely reported in the media. They give away nothing new, he writes. But if no high national security secret has been betrayed in these transcripts, the workings of the U.S. government have been gravely compromised, and in ways that will be very difficult to repair even after Trump leaves office, Frum says. Contempt for Trump's misconduct inspires counter-misconduct. From ISNT alone in this assessment. Virginia Sen. Mark Warner, the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, is calling for an investigation. Warner called the leak absolutely troubling, and like Frum, argued that it could create serious complications in the White House's ability to conduct foreign policy. A president of the United States, a governor, would tell us they've got to be able to have confidential conversations, Warner told the Daily Beast in an interview. And I think it was disgraceful that those came out. Frum concludes that, the less Trump can trust the regularly constituted government, the more justified he will feel in working irregularly. His irregular actions then justify more counter-irregularity from the rest of the government. Donald Trump has launched the executive branch into a cycle of self-destruction for which he bears ultimate blame, but whose ultimate cost will be borne by his successors and the American nation. Trying to expose the president as a dope hardly seems worth the price. Tim Morris is an opinions columnist at NOLA.com, The Times-Picayune. He can be reached at morris@nola.com. Follow him on Twitter at Morris504.